So the theme of this class is a self-love class, but it's because of the chakras that are associated with it. So it's going to be your heart chakra and the solar plexus, which is the one right here. Solar plexus has to do with like confidence, but it also has to do with your core muscles. So when you work the core muscles, it kind of helps you develop that confidence, supposedly. And then the heart, all the heart openers, so like the chest openers, things like that, it's like opening yourself up. Like symbolically, all the poses represent bravery. So the theme of the class almost is like whatever you're doing, kind of focus on engaging your core and then like opening up your chest and kind of feeling that and everything. So I'll say that a lot in the class as like a reminder, but it's mostly to like just thinking about like self-confidence. Yeah. And then there's one other thing because in yoga, there's like 7 different limbs. And one of the principles is this word called ahimsa, and it means non-violence, which is why like a lot of yogis don't eat meat. But it also branches into other categories, including yourself. So like non-violence against yourself in like your actions and your thoughts and your words. So like if you're in the class and you're doing something and you hear yourself in your head kind of be like, I messed up, like I did that. I'll lower this a little bit. But if you like hear that voice in your head that's like calling you like stupid or something for like messing up a pose or like falling in a balance pose, the whole thing during the class is to kind of go back to the principle of ahimsa and push it aside and be like, I'm doing the best I can in this moment. Like, I don't need to be harsh on myself. Like, I'm here. I took the time to be here. So that's kind of like the whole theme. We'll be working on the core, the chest, and then kind of going back to that principle of like non-violence. So that is the theme today. We're going to get ready for a little meditation. So you can sit in whatever position you'd like. You can have the blocks by you in the class as well. You can use them as modification tools. Or anytime you're seated, you can also put them under your knees for a long period of time. It kind of helps with that. So if the knees start feeling gross in any of the seated things today, you can just stick it under there. But just close your eyes and find that comfortable seated position. Just dropping the shoulders, feeling the upper body get heavy, taking any tension out of your jaw and your face, releasing the frown lines, the eyebrows, and just taking a moment to settle in. And just notice what you feel on the mat, the parts of your body that are making contact with the mat and the parts of your body that aren't touching anything. And as you sit here, just start to notice your breath. You don't have to make any changes to your breath. Just notice the flow of air coming in through your nose and then coming out. Noticing the temperature. It's a little colder when you're exhaling, a little warmer when it comes in. You can take this time in the beginning of the practice to set an intention today. It could be a mantra, it could be just a thought or a principle that you want to follow in today. Again, you can use the principle of ahimsa, focusing on these few minutes together, not being mean to yourself with the commentary, and just accepting the moment as it is, or anything else that comes to your mind. And you can start to move your fingers around, move the head side to side, keeping the eyes closed, just maybe going into some neck rolls. Bringing the head in one direction, nice and slow. The chin to the chest, and chin to the sky. You can reverse the direction that you're going with the head rolls. And come back to center. You can open your eyes from here. You're gonna take the right hand and bring it over to the top of the left side of your head. And think about bringing the right ear to the right shoulder. Let gravity do the work. You don't have to pull on your head, just kind of let it sink. You can take the opposite hand and press it into the ground. You'll feel it a little bit deeper in the back. You can slowly release that. We're going to bring the left ear to the left shoulder. Bring that left hand on top of the right side of the head. And again, press the right hand down and let gravity take over. Releasing that hand and coming back to center. We're gonna make our way in the tabletop position. Just coming on all fours, making sure we have the wrist underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hip bones here. And you can untuck your feet and let them lay flat. We're gonna go for those cat cows. You can do them however you want with your breath here. But we're dropping the belly and the chest as the chin comes up, taking a deep breath in. And on the exhale, we're gonna round the shoulder blades, tuck the chin, and think about pushing against the mat. We'll repeat that at your own pace. Inhale for the cow pose. Exhale for that cat. You can add any movements you like here. If you want to maybe look over the shoulders or go into some circular motions, you totally can. When you're ready, we'll come back to that tabletop position. We're going to bring the left elbow down and look over the right shoulder. My back just popped so nice there. But making sure you're looking in the direction your head is turning. Hold it here for one breath. We'll come back. Tabletop, opposite side. We got the right arm coming down, looking over the left shoulder. And we're going to flow through these two poses, kind of like the cat cow. So we'll come back to tabletop, take a deep breath in. Exhale, we're going to go to the left. And back to tabletop for that breath. Exhale, other side. And take it at your own tempo, your own rhythm here. It's just stretching the spine in a different direction. Instead of going vertically, we're going kind of horizontally and moving around and getting some motion in area. We don't usually move too much. All right, when you're ready, we'll come back to tabletop. We're gonna do a quick wrist stretch before we get going because we tend to be kind of dumping into our hands a lot when we do yoga. So for this, we're gonna invert the right hand. So you have the fingertips facing your inner thigh. And we're gonna think about peeling our hand off the mat, starting with the wrist. So just peeling it back, bending the elbow a little bit. And you're gonna feel that crazy stretch in your forearm. And bring it back down. So the fingertips will stay on the mat, but you're starting to kind of peel from the wrist, the palm, and the first link of the finger comes up as you bend your elbow. Do two more on this side, just kind of warming up the wrist. Okay, we'll flip that hand back over. If it feels a little funky, you can also just roll it out this way, back and forth a bit. But we're gonna get the other side. So we're gonna invert the fingers, press the palm into the mat, and then you're gonna bend your elbow as you slowly peel the palm and the first link of the finger up and back down. Go for our last two. Okay, we're bringing that wrist back to normal. And again, you can roll it out for a second on the other side, just to kind of warm up the hands. So we're gonna get ready for our first downward dog of the class. You're gonna walk the hands just about a hand forward, and you wanna have the fingertips wide and pointing out. We're gonna tuck the toes and lift up by pushing the hips back behind you. You can play around with your positioning here if it feels better to maybe bring your feet closer or farther. You don't have to worry about the heels touching the ground. Remember practicing that principle, non-violence, accepting where our bodies are in the moment, not forcing ourselves into any poses today. And we can shake the head yes or no here, kind of get the neck stretched out again. And bending those knees, kind of walk the dog. Okay, we're gonna start to walk our feet up towards our hands, however we can get up there. And we're gonna take a forward bend here. If you need the blocks for this one, you totally can bring them in, having them here on the sides, or you can just let gravity take over. Think about bringing your chest, your belly closer to your knees and just letting the upper body hang. You can grab your elbows to add some more weight, decompress the spine a little bit. Okay, we're gonna rise up one vertebrae at a time. So you're gonna really push into the mat with your feet here and think about the bottom link of your tailbone starting this movement. So keeping the elbows hanging like so, pushing into the ground one link at a time, you're gonna start to rise. So keep your chin tucked in. So you get up, nice and slow and controlled. We're gonna come into that mountain pose, bringing the hands out. You can close the eyes for a second, just take a deep breath in. Check in with the body. Maybe your spine feels a little bit different after all those movements. For better, for worse, just take a second to notice it. Okay, you can open the eyes. We're gonna go into a round of sun salutations. So for these, we're gonna do each side of the body, the right side first, and then the left. So I'm gonna walk you through on the first one, and then afterward, you can like pick up the pace if you're comfortable with that. But to start a sun salutation, we're gonna bring the hands up over the head like so. Exhale, bring the hands to heart center. You're gonna take a deep breath in here, and you wanna tuck your tailbone in, make sure your back isn't too arched. We're gonna bring the arms up over the head and kind of go for a little mini back bend. It helps if you squeeze your glutes and keep the core tight. You're just going back for a second. Then on our exhale, we're gonna round forward for that forward fold, just like so. We're gonna start with the right side here. The right foot is gonna step back. You wanna have the hands on your blocks or your mat. Right foot's gonna step back, just like so, and you can let the knee touch the ground. And you're gonna look straight forward here. Going back to that posture, you wanna lift the shoulder blades, standing nice and proud, and you can bring the blocks in here if it helps you get a nice spine. Hands on the mat, we're gonna go back into downward dog. So you're gonna push that foot behind you into your downward dog like so. And we're gonna pass through plank to get down to the ground. So that can mean a chaturanga for you if you'd like to do that option. You can do it in a plank or on your knees. Or you're gonna push yourself until you have your shoulders stacked on top of your wrist. Again, you can come down to the knees like so, or push all the way down until you're flat on the mat. We're gonna take a back bend of choice here. So you wanna push your hips into the mat and push the tops of your toes into the ground as well. This is gonna take the whole lower body out of it. You push the hands into the mat to rise like so. You can bring them off the mat for a baby cobra, or you can bring them in front of you to come up for a normal cobra here. Putting the hands underneath your armpits, tucking the toes. We're gonna go back into that downward dog. And the left foot is gonna come up in the air. And we're gonna step it forward into that lunge that we were in before. Looking forward, pulling the shoulder blades down. We're gonna tuck the toe in the back, step forward into that forward fold. Pushing against the ground, thinking about root to rise. We're gonna come up, hands over the head, bringing them into prayer at your chest center. So that was our right side. We're gonna repeat it at a slower pace for our left side. So deep breath in, bring the arms over the head again to the chest. We're gonna squeeze our core, squeeze the glutes a little bit, arms up over the head for that mini back bend. And then we're gonna forward fold. Now we're gonna bring our left foot back here for that lunge. Coming down, grab the blocks if you need, look forward. Hands on the mat. So we're gonna push back in the downward dog. Take your flow of choice. So either on the knees, going for chaturanga, and your back bend variation. Coming back down into that downward dog here. You take a second to breathe. We're gonna bring the right foot up and step forward into our lunge here. Gaze ahead of you. Step up into that forward fold. Root to rise, arms up over the head, and bring those hands to your heart center. Take a second to notice your breath. Your heart rate's gone up with this one. Anything that's changed in your body, just make notice of it. We're gonna do the same thing on the right side and the left side, where we're gonna link our breath to our movement. So inhale and exhale as you move for each one. So this is where you keep the pace the same, or if you wanna pick it up a little bit, you totally can. So we'll get ready here, arms above the head. Deep breath in, bring them to heart center. And we're gonna squeeze the core, squeeze the glutes. Inhale, and then exhale as we fold forward. We're gonna bring the right foot back. Deep breath in at the bottom of the lunge, and start your exhale as you push back to downward dog. Flowing through your chaturanga here, coming down to the ground. Deep breath at the top of your back bend. Exhale as we go back to downward dog, and left foot comes up in the air. Stepping forward, deep breath in that lunge. Exhale as we step forward to fold. Inhale as we come up, sweeping the arms above the head, and bringing the hands to the heart center. Taking one more deep breath in, we're gonna hit the other side, and then we're done with the sun salutation. So arms up over the head, we're gonna bring them hands to heart center, squeezing the core, squeezing the glutes. Deep breath in, arms over here. Exhale as we fold. We're gonna step the left foot back. Deep breath in as you look forward. Exhale as you push into your downward dog. Hold your breath as you flow through your chaturanga. And we inhale at the top of your back bend. Starting the exhale for your downward dog. And the right foot comes up. We'll step it forward into your lunge. Coming into your forward fold, let the upper body hang. Root to rise, arms above the head, and hands at your heart center here. Okay, we're done with the sun salutations. Just kind of to warm your body up, warm the mind up a bit. So you can close your eyes, have the hands out by your side, and just catch your breath for a moment here. Again, if any of those thoughts are coming up, you're judging your body, if you weren't on your own pace, putting that aside for this practice today and just connecting to the fact that you showed up for yourself and any movement that you put in is good. And keeping that positive mindset, we're gonna go into some balance work. So I'm just gonna turn this way so you guys can see, but we're gonna practice some balance. And again, there's different levels, so I'll show you the modifications and the ways to make it a little more difficult. So we're gonna get started pushing your weight onto your left leg. And you can turn your foot in like so to start with a baby tree pose. As you feel more comfortable, you can bring the foot up to the calf. You can bring the foot up to your thigh, but just make sure you don't have the foot pushing into your knee. Now think about opposing forces. You're pushing your right leg into your left leg, and you're pushing your left leg into your right foot. Kind of create that pressure to keep yourself balanced. And we can find that focal point. So something to stare at could be a speck on the floor, a point on your mat to help keep that balance. And hold it here. And again, at any point, if you fail, you fall. It's all part of a journey. You can bring the foot down, bring it to the side, or change where you are. But if you have your leg up, we're all going to meet with our thigh in front of us, holding it. And maybe we can try a challenge of extending that leg out, looking at a point on the floor, bringing the arms to the side. I'm just going to pivot so you guys can see. But from here, we can try to challenge to bring the foot back into a lunge, or we can put it down and manually get there. But I'm leaning forward a bit. We're transitioning into our warrior three. And then we're going to step that right foot down and land in a warrior one. And again, take a second if you need to adjust. You can check out the hips. You always want your hips pointing in front of you. So a good way to make sure that they're even is pretend to shake someone's hand in front of you, and it kind of orients the hips for you. So if you notice your hips are a little wonky, pretend to shake someone's hand and your hips are naturally going to follow. But once you get there, bringing those arms over our head, keeping that nice forward gaze, and checking to see that you have your knee right over your ankle in that perfect 90-degree angle. Taking a second to feel strong and steady, we're going to open ourselves up into a warrior two. So from here, we're going to pivot the back foot down, and you may need to adjust again. But we're looking over the fingertips. Think about the fingertips as an extension of your energy. You don't want them down or hanging. You want to make sure everything from your shoulder to your fingers is a nice, strong, straight line. We are going to bring the hands behind us for a bind of choice. So that bind can be grabbing your elbows, could be interlocking the fingers, but we're going to go for our humble warrior. So you're going to pull the shoulder blades back and down and then hinge forward to open up your chest. And again, binds can look different for everybody. Maybe you want to try a new bind, and then halfway you can switch, but it's up to you. Pushing against your feet to come up top, you can release the bind. You're going to straighten that leg out, bring the hand in front of you forward, flip the palm, and we're going to go for a reverse triangle here. Kind of flush out that leg. Feel that nice side stretch. Think about opening the chest out. Okay, starting to bend that front leg again. Coming back into our warrior. We're going to cartwheel the hands forward until they come down to the ground. You can add in your block here if you need it to put your hand on top of, but we're going to open up the body to the left side for a dragonfly. There's an option here as well if you'd like to take a bind, taking that left hand behind you. Maybe you can grab onto your pants or your hip to further open that body up, or you can keep the hand up there. Okay, coming out of that bind, bring both hands to the mat, and we're going to step back into a plank, and then push the hips back for a downward dog. You have an option if you'd like to take a flow here and do a chaturanga, or you can come down and meet me in child's pose. So you take that flow. And then once you come back into your downward dog, we're going to bring the knees to the outside of the mat, tap the toes together, and push yourself back for a well-deserved child's pose here. Just letting the head hang heavy. If you feel any tension in your neck, breathe into it. Let the forehead touch the mat. You can add a block underneath your forehead as well if you want some more support to bring the floor closer to your head. But just breathe and notice how good it feels to move your body, to be connected with yourself today. Remember, at any point during the flow, if you want to come back to the child's pose, you totally can. You don't ever have to follow what I'm saying. If it doesn't feel good to you or it's something you don't want to do today, you can always go into an alternative pose or come into child's pose. So let's get 2 more deep breaths in, and then we're going to bring ourselves back up in the downward dog. So take those 2 big deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can spread the fingertips. We'll tuck the toes down and push ourselves back. And we're just going to walk ourselves forward again into that forward fold. And since we did a lot of work on our left leg, we can even go into a single leg forward fold. So you're going to step your right foot behind you just to kind of stagger it out and let the body hang. You'll just feel a deeper stretch on the front hamstring. So whatever foot you use, just keep that in front. And go back to a regular forward fold. Let's take a deep breath for a halfway lift. So we're going to flatten the back. Think about pulling the shoulder blades back and down, keeping that gaze forward. Exhale, forward fold. When you're ready, you can root to rise. So pushing into the mat, bringing those hands up over your head. And we're going to do that balance work on the other side. So I'll face this way again. So we're going to shift all of our weight into our right foot this time. Make sure your knees aren't locked out. Get them nice and loose. First option again is bringing the left heel to the ankle. We're going for our tree variation. So however high you want to go, you bring it up to your calf, bring it all the way up to the thigh. And think again about the opposing forces, pushing the right into the left to create that tension. Finding that point on the floor. Okay, we slowly start to bring the thigh in front of us, hanging on to it. And try to extend the leg out. I'm just going to pivot so you guys can see. And we can either manually step back into a lunge or we can transition with warrior 3. So we're going to lean forward if you're transitioning here. Keep that focal point. And we're going to step that foot back, arms up over the head for our warrior 1. Check those hips out. Make sure they're pointing forward. If you want to bring that handshake forward. And just breathe here again. Don't want to hold any tension in the shoulders, so let them relax as the arms go up over your head. When you're ready, we're going to open up into our warrior two. So pivoting that back foot, checking out again, your knee isn't stacked with your ankle. And think about if there's an invisible wall behind you, you want to push your thigh against that wall. So make sure your knee isn't concaving too much towards the center. You want to push it against that invisible wall. We'll get ready to take our bind of choice again. That can be your elbows like so, but you want to pull yourself back, or you can link the fingers, pull the shoulder blades back, and we're going to fall forward for our humble warrior. Opening our chest up, feeling tall and proud today. Release that bind if you need to. You can push against the mat to rise. We're going to straighten the right leg. You don't want to lock it out again, but you just want it straightened. We're going to bring the right hand forward, put the palm up towards the ceiling, lean into it, and then we're going to push ourselves over into our reverse triangle. Flush out that leg. We're going to rebend the right knee, so we're back into a warrior. Cartwheel the hands forward so they come down to the ground. Finger that block. We're going to open up for our dragonfly twist. So all the weight goes into your left hand. The right side opens up nice and tall. And you can bring the hand behind you if you'd like to further open your chest or totally keep it up in the air. And we'll bring the hands back down to the mat. We'll step back here. Again, option for a flow if you'd like to take one. You can go into your chaturanga push-up. Come down into a mini back bend of choice. And then you can meet me in downward dog. So option here, before we take our rest in our child's pose, if you guys want to open up your dog. So what that means is you're going to keep a little bend in the knee and you're going to keep the left foot on the ground. Get ready to lift your right foot up. We're going to kind of pivot the left foot and bring the right foot out to open up your dog and feeling graceful. And when you're ready, you can totally come back. You'll notice it puts a lot of pressure on whatever shoulder is in the center. So if you feel it, you can totally skip that. But we're going to do it on the other side. So same thing, lightly bend the knees, get ready to pivot the right foot, and then the left foot comes back as you open yourself up and look at the ceiling. Okay, we'll come back to our downward dog, and then we're going to sit ourselves down into child's pose. Feel free to take a wide leg version or the regular version if that feels better to you in this moment. We're doing good. We're almost there. We're going to do some mat work just seated. So we're not going to come back up to standing for the rest of the class. So take that time to relax from that flow. Nice work. And when you're ready, you can join me in a seated position. You can get there by tabletopping and then kind of sitting back onto your sit bones, but whatever is easier for you. So we will do a little core work because again, the solar plexus is in charge of our confidence and the way we view ourselves in the world. So by strengthening your core and kind of pushing past that and finding that discipline, it kind of helps you connect with yourself. So also it's just a good ab workout, to be honest. So those are two reasons why we're doing it. But we're going to do a boat variation. So for boat, you want to make sure you're seated on the ground. You may need to move the flesh out so that your sit bones are on the floor. So you can adjust yourself. You want to make sure your back isn't arched too much. So just kind of tuck that tailbone in. And you want to brace yourself as if someone was going to punch you, the way that you kind of like squeeze your core. That's what you want to have before you go into this one. So taking a deep breath in, on the exhale, kind of squeeze that core. Few variations here. It's easier with the arms down. So if you struggle, you keep the hands down. It's harder with the hands off the mat. So first variation would be arms on the floor, and you're going to hold your feet bent like so. To make it harder, you can straighten the legs or take the hands off. So play around with it, but we're just going to hold it for a few seconds. Definitely going to feel yourself shake, but it's a good thing. Maybe play around, one leg comes up for a second, maybe the other leg, and we'll come back down. Just take a breather there. We're going to do it 2 more times in total. So we're only going to hold it a few times to kind of build up that strength. And maybe you want to play around with it this time. So if you had your hands on the mat, maybe take them off. But all right, deep breath in, make sure the back is flat, that core is tight, shoulders back, and we lift. Straighten the legs maybe for a few seconds. One variation that I can't do is like hands over the head. I will fall. So if you want to go for it, you can. Okay, bend the knees and we'll come back down. We're going to do it one more time together just to kind of warm up that core again. So whatever variation you're comfortable with, we can go into it here. Squeezing the core, keeping the back flat, shoulders down. Let's go, last time. So hands can be on you, on the mat, above you. You can even add some motion here that keeps you distracted, but whatever you're more comfortable with. Okay, we'll try to extend the legs for our last 5 seconds here. 3, 2, 1. Okay, go. You can push the knees together, kind of push them side to side, windshield wiper them if that feels good. We do have one last little core movement before we make our way into our final restorative poses, which is nice. So this is going to be a variation of what we just did. It's almost like a tap. So we're going to push ourselves down onto our elbows. We're going to bring our knees up. So this is going to work your pelvic floor. So with this one, again, you want to keep the back from rounding. If your back is rounding too much, you can always sit up a little more. So bringing the feet up one at a time, we're going to tap them down. And I want you to think about using your stomach to pull that leg back up. So tap and come up. Inhale down, exhale as that leg rises. So breath, push it out. Really slow, the slower the better with these, because that means you have more control, more focus, more mind and muscle connection here. And that is what we're working for. So we got our last few deep breaths. Move with the breath. So inhale at the bottom, exhale at the top. And we're going for our last one on each side. Bring it down, bring it up. All right. So that is it for the core, but we always have to keep a little bit of that in there today. And what we're going to do is we're going to come into our tabletop, and I want you to take some cat-cows. After using our core, sometimes our back gets pulled into it, even at the last second. So just take some cat-cows here at your own pace. Feel free to add that twist variation in as well if it feels good to you after the core movements. Okay, so we are going to get ready to go into a pigeon pose. So for pigeon, we can do it by going into a plank or a downward dog. I'm going to go with downward dog. Plank would be a little bit more advanced, so if you want to try it, we're going to lift our leg up. I have my left leg up, and I'm going to stink it forward until it gets to the mat. So same thing we had with the hips. You want the hips to be square, so you may need to lean forward with that arm to square them out. So let's stay here for a few seconds before we fold over and practice our posture, practice keeping that chest open. Maybe you want to grab the blocks and bring them to your side to make it more accessible to you, and just practice that posture. So we feel in our hips here, and the pigeon pose in your hips are associated with the sacral chakra, which is kind of where we hold guilt and kind of where we hold things that we repress. So sometimes people say when you do a lot of your hip poses, you feel a lot of emotions come out, and sometimes it hits you later. So I remember I did this once and I literally was crying like in the next pose, and I was like, why am I tearing up? And it was because I did pigeon a few seconds before. So if anything comes up for you, it's totally okay. Just let the emotions be what they are. And we can come down into our forearms. I like to rest my head on a block whenever I do this one. So I always bring my arms down and I let my head hang heavy here on the block. This way, there's no tension. I like to think about the blocks as they're bringing the floor closer to you. So for poses that you can't reach the floor, they're really good for that. Maybe you want to play around with the foot position. So the leg that is bent, the farther you open it up, the more you feel it. So maybe you want to scoot the foot out a little bit more. Maybe you don't. It's up to you. Okay, if you're bent forward, we're going to come back up to the original pigeon position. Pressing into your hands, we're going to push back in a downward dog. So tucking the back toe, lifting up a bit, back foot goes up. We walk the dog for a few seconds, shake out the left side. And we're going to just repeat it on the right side. So right foot comes up, and swing it under, and fold over. And again, let's stay here for a few seconds for that posture. You'll notice one side might be a little tighter. I know that my right side's tighter, so I always have to fix the hip for that one. Again, practicing your posture, practice your neck posture too, to play around with it. Sometimes we walk around with our heads out really far because we're on our phones a lot. So maybe you can play with bringing your head back, maybe bringing your chin down as you look forward. I'm gonna get ready to fold. So I like to bring that block coming down onto the forearms and play with that foot position. And we can rest our heads. Breathing into any tension. Feel yourself release on every exhale. And we can begin to come back up from the forearms. We're going to go into a downward dog. Tap the toes, push it back. We paddle out the feet. And come down onto your knees. We're going to get onto our backs for our last pose. There's going to be some twists. So if you want to come up to the top of your mat and sit back manually, and just bring the knees to the chest once you get down there. You can take some time, maybe doing some circles in one direction. And circle in the other direction as well. And we can bring the feet down on to the ground. We're going to take a bridge before we hit those twists. So whenever I do a bridge, you can feel the gap between your back and the mat if you feel it's rounded a bit. Think about eliminating that gap. So we're kind of pushing our pelvis down. Our back is going to touch the mat. So fill that gap up with your body. Then think about pulling your shoulder blades together. So literally scoot them under. We're going to push the hands into the ground. We're going to push into our feet to come up. So we want to make sure our knees are in line with our ankles. Toes are facing forward. We start to lift hips up into the air here. Just like in that tree pose where I was talking about pushing your right and left legs together, think about if you had a ball in between your kneecaps and you're almost kind of squeezing, pushing the left and right knees into each other without having them touch. So just pretend there's something there. You want to keep that tension. You can take the option to also bind your fingers here so you can bring the shoulder blades back even more and get a little bit more of an intense chest opener. Feeling strong and sturdy as we hold it. We can release that bind, bring the hands back to the mat, and we'll slowly, one vertebrae at a time, bring ourselves down here. And you can windshield wiper the knees side to side if you want to flush it out a bit. Now, if you have your block by your side, you're going to go into a supported bridge or a supported legs against the wall pose. So what you're doing is you take the block on the shortest side, and you're going to push it right after your tailbone in between where your butt is. Just kind of find that cushiony spot where you can leave it where it's not uncomfortable. So play around, it's a little different on everybody. But then what we're going to do is you can either stay here with the bridge position, or we can lift the legs up one at a time. You can keep them bent, you can extend them, and just keep the hands on the floor for some support here. You can roll the ankles out in a direction or two. Point and flex them after all that balance work and all the strengthening moves. You can close your eyes here, come to silence. This is a really good pose. It helps with the blood circulation. So if you have tight hamstrings, this helps get some blood to that area. It's also really good if you have cramps of any sort. This is my go-to whenever I have period cramps. I just sit in this position for like 2 minutes and they go away. So it's like a life hack. Just notice your breath here. Maybe you're breathing a little bit differently now than you were at the beginning of the practice. Notice if your breaths are deep or if you find they're a little shallow. Just make note. You start to bend the knees with 1 foot at a time back on the mat. And just squeeze and kind of go into that bridge to remove the block from under you. And then again, 1 vertebrae at a time, you will come back down. That one usually helps too if you have back pain. So if you need to move the thighs, you can. I want you to bring the left knee into your chest and the right leg, just keep it flat on your mat. So extend it out all the way. We're going to go into a twist here. So we're going to take that left knee. We're going to bring it across your body until it gets to the right side of the floor. Your left hand can come up above you, and then you can open it out to the side like a T and look at that hand. If you don't have any neck irritation, if you have any neck issues, you can just look forward. Your right hand, you keep that on the left knee. It again adds a little bit of gravity, helps keep in the stretch. So we'll slowly start to turn our head to the center, bring both knees back to that center position. We're going to extend the left leg flat out, bring the right knee to your chest, and start to bring it over your torso. We can open up the right arm and look towards that side. Releasing any tension. Notice if your fingers are holding tension. Maybe your shoulders, your toes are gripping. Just release. You can start to come back to the center. And we can get ready for our Shavasana. So if you want to take any final poses here, you can. I'm going to go for a happy baby if you guys want as well. So level 1 of that would be bringing the feet together to touch and just holding there. Or level 2 would be grabbing the soles of the feet, bringing them above your head. Even rock side to side to kind of massage your spine. Maybe play around with extending one leg up, the other. And I invite you to take any final poses that you would like here, any last twists, bridges, anything you feel comfortable with, and go for it. We're going to start to get ready for our Shavasana here. For Shavasana, you want to have your feet wide on your mat. So think about having them as wide as they can go, turning the toes outward. The palms can lay flat on the floor or up at the ceiling. If you want to ground yourself, feel more connected, you can have the palms down. If you want to be open to receiving, you can leave the palms up. Just getting comfortable here, closing your eyes. And again, just take the time to notice what's around you. Notice what parts of you are making contact with the mat. And notice what parts of you aren't, parts on the back of your leg, on your spine, aren't touching the mat, but see if you can perceive them. And just breathe here. And let's switch to Shavasana song. Again, coming back to the principle of self-love, even though it is thrown around a lot, almost sounds corny at this point. It's having patience with yourself and having gratitude and grace in things you do. And it's even as simple as just taking the time to notice and almost redirect your thoughts. So whenever those thoughts come up where you catch yourself maybe insulting yourself or coming back to any negative thoughts, even just taking the time to be aware of it and then redirecting the thought to something else is a sign and a way of self-love. So I have the singing bowl out today. This, even though it is a pink bowl, it is in the tone of F, and F is the frequency that aligns with the heart chakra. So each of the chakras have a different frequency, so different letter that they, when you play them, it resonates with the frequency of that chakra. So this one goes with the heart chakra. So I am going to play a little bit of it while you breathe in your Shavasana. Slowly start to come back to your body here. And notice if you feel the vibration of the bowl anywhere in your body. Try to see if you can feel it around that heart chakra, or maybe in your third eye, a point on your forehead. You can feel any tingling. Slowly start to notice your breathing again. Notice the parts of your body on the mat that you can feel. And again, notice the parts of your body that aren't touching the mat and are floating. And just make small movements with your fingers. Start to roll your wrists around, roll your ankles. Maybe you can move the knees around, windshield wiper them slowly if that feels good. Just take any small movements to start to wake your body up. And as slow as you can on your own pace, you can roll over onto your right side and make a cushion with your right arm into that fetal position. Taking time to breathe in this position before you start to rise. So keeping your eyes closed here, you can slowly start to push yourself up into a seated meditative posture. So whatever that looks like for you, it's cross-legged, it's hero's pose, keeping the eyes closed. And then you can bring the palms on to your knees. You could bring them down so you can feel your body. Connect with yourself one last time before we end the practice today. And take one hand over your heart and the other over your belly. Start to notice your breathing. Every time you inhale, how your chest rises and your belly rises. And just feel that gratitude that you took the time this morning for yourself to do something good, to try something new, put aside time to move your body, to appreciate what it can do for you. You can bow your head to your practice here. And thank you so much for sharing this space with me today and allowing me to take you through the class.